No, she said I'm sitting. Thank you. I'm sorry.
I think let's go to mask on a bit first. Okay, smile. Should we go without mask and just keep it spaced out? Thank you very much.
See you, Judy. Yeah? Not yet.
Yeah.
Nisha.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll give you 2 minutes just to settle down. Dr. Mahlangu. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Female Academic Leaders Fellowship Board and the Chancellor of Wits, I'd like to welcome you all to this very important meeting. It is the launch of FALF, and also today we'd like to introduce you to the Inaugural Fellows. FALF's vision is to achieve gender and racial transformation in academic leadership, knowledge production, and create role models for future generations. The mission is to create a pipeline of African female academic leaders who produce new knowledge, create an inclusive culture, and mentor the future of academic leaders. I'd like to mention a few special guests today, starting with our Chancellor, Dr. Judy Dlamini, who's also the chairperson of FALF. I'd like to acknowledge our Vice Chancellor, Prof. Zeblon Vilagazi, the Director of USAF, Dr. Linda Meyer, the CEO of USAF, Prof. Ahmed Bawa, the Chairman of USAF, Prof. Sibongile Mutwa, who's also the Vice Chancellor of Nelson Mandela University, also Prof. Mamokgethi Phakeng, who's the Vice Chancellor of UCT, and Dr. Precious Moloi Motsepe, who is the Chancellor of UCT, Advocate Kumbi, who's the Chancellor of the University of Venda, the First Lady of the Republic of South Africa, Dr. Tepo Motsepe, Prof. Letitia Rispel. I'd also like to acknowledge all the deans, Prof. Bonang Mohale, and finally, I want to acknowledge the family. You all know Mr. Sizwe Nxasana, who has many titles, but I think his most important title today is being husband of the chairperson of FALF. We'd like to welcome the family as well. Nganyezi Makari and Lufuno Makari, who are the daughter and son-in-law of Dr. Judy Dlamini. I take this opportunity also to introduce the board, starting with myself. Can I have some water? Sorry. I am Salome Maswime. I'm an associate professor at the University of Cape Town and the head of global surgery. I'm also
We have lost the audio.
Please bear with us. We're having a technical problem. I've asked them just to reinstate that audio.
introductory talk. Dr. Judy Dlamini is a medical and academic doctor, businesswoman, author, and philanthropist. She has worked in different sectors of the economy. She's the founder and executive chairman of the Mbekani Group that has celebrated 20 years in business in 2016. Also the Wits University Chancellor, as I've mentioned. She's also the chairperson of FALF and also chairs the board of the Wits Donald Gordon Medical Center. She's also chairperson of the Gender-Based Violence Fund, which is a response fund to the gender-based violence in South Africa. And she's got a doctorate which investigated the intersection of race, gender, and social class in women. And she's got many accolades that I won't mention, and has done a lot of, apart from her MPCHB, she's done her diploma. She did a diploma with the University of Free State, an MBA from the Wits University, a DBL from UNISA, and a certificate in entrepreneurship and innovation from Stanford University. Gives me great pleasure to invite you to the stage.
Thanks very much, Professor Salome. I'll be joining from here, and so will be my colleagues. Good morning and welcome. Good morning to everyone who's joining virtually, and good morning to everyone who's here, especially my daughter there in the corner. I have so many people to acknowledge, and thanks, Prof. Salome, for doing it on my behalf, especially our Vice Chancellor, who has made this possible, who actually made sure it drives that. Oh yes, Prof, and I'm eternally grateful for that. So I've prepared let me just share the presentation, because there were too many things I wanted to share, and I knew if I didn't prepare something, I would be. Can you see my presentation? Oh, not yet?
Yes, we can see it.
Now you can see it,
Yes.
right. It's a very exciting moment for me at a personal level. Oh, can you see now? Okay, and I hope at home they can also see. It's a very exciting moment when we've just ushered in our new Vice Chancellor for him to launch this project that he's been very instrumental in ensuring that it gets born today. If I look back to the day I was installed on the 1st of December 2018, it was very exciting, but also there were two questions that I had, and I had to answer for myself. When you are the first of anything, it tells you something about the blind spot of the institution that you are a first anything to. In this case, I was the first woman. So it said to me, one, you have the obligation. They are saying to you, we know we've had a blind spot, please help us. So that's one. The other thing is that you then need to look around and say, what is there to be done? So I started off with 4 questions. The first one was because I was coming from business. I knew the issues in business. I didn't know the issues in academia. So I wanted to find out nationally, how do we stand? I wanted to find out at WITS, how do we stand? And I wanted to compare WITS to the national transformation and then look at solutions. And I'm happy to say that there are so many people that have assisted the birth of FALF by giving information or directing me to the right people. On the national issue, I was helped by my husband, who actually directed me to Professor Ahmed Bauer, who's the CEO of USAF, who helped me with the information. On the WITS issue, I was helped by the then VC, Adam Habib, who directed me to Dr. Bernadette Johnson, who's been very helpful, and the now senior VC, DVC, Roxana Osman, who gave me all the information I had, because everything we do has to be evidence-based, and you can't do that without doing research first. And for solutions, I was directed by my mentor on my left, the first Black VC of this university, who directed me to the NRF. And that's how I met Dr. Q and also Dr. Matutu, who helped me with a lot of information. So that gave birth to the idea that maybe because transformation at Wits goes back to Prof. Loiso's time, we've always done something as Witsi, being a Witsi myself, but we just didn't use the lens that I believe helps a lot if you use intersectionality as the tool. So these are the questions I ask myself, or the motivation for what we are launching today. It's really two things. One is just doing what's right, because we are stronger as a collective. When the leadership is diverse and the culture is inclusive, we all win, because the solutions are so much better. But the second thing is that as elders, we have a responsibility to pass on a world that is equal, a world that is transformed and inclusive. So it's an intergenerational duty that we have. And if you look at the students at Wits, they are mainly women. So they want to see themselves in the position of leadership, in the position of power, because if you do that, you validate them, you say you can. So I spoke about my research looking at the national statistic. And if you look at the national statistic, if you just look at women, we're not doing badly when it comes to white women. If you compare, if you look at the dark blue, that is associate professors. The lighter blue is professors. And we're sitting in terms of professors, just over 20%, as opposed to the demographic representation in the country. So we're doing well there. In terms of the Indian women, we're doing okay. It's actually higher than the demographic representation. Where we have a challenge is African and colored women. And that is where the basis of FALF comes from. And when we look at the representation in positions of leadership at Wits, looking at African and colored women, the story tells you that we have to do something, and we are. And why do I talk about this intersection? The intersection, when you try to come up with a solution, you actually have to look at different social identities, especially social identities of disadvantage. If you look to the graph on the right, or my right, we actually have a transformed leadership when it comes to deans. But once you start looking at gender and race, we have something to do. It's the same thing when it comes to heads of school. When you look to the right, we're racially transformed. But when you look to the left, we're not, and we are doing something about it. And this is just to show that it's been a while that as Wits, we've been on the path of transformation. And this just shows African and colored females according to their academic ranks. And the lighter blue is 2021, the darker blue is 2012. So it's almost 10 years. Being an optimist that I am, it's encouraging to see that when you look at the pipeline, lecturer and associate lecturers, we've had quite an increase in those areas. What it says then is that we as leaders have to ensure that they don't get discouraged. We give them the opportunities to develop themselves so that they can get promoted to the ranks where they don't show up as well. And if you look at the whole institution and you look at the different categories, again, orange being associate lecturer and the darkest being the professor, you can see that we do have a challenge. And the main challenge really is African and colored females. And it has improved a lot. It just has to focus now where there is a problem. and we are doing something about it. I brought this to just show that I'm proud that I'm part of WITS for many reasons. One of them being the leader, being led by the VC, but also the commitment to transformation. All I am doing, assisted by my colleagues on either side of me and those that are at home, is bringing the intersectional lens to the transformation. So what is FALF's mission? I think Professor Salumi alluded to it. We have already started with WITS leadership to develop women academic leaders in the least transformed area. I want to repeat this because transformation is a very sensitive topic in the country. Once you bring race and gender, people get very touchy. So when we exclude white women and Indian women, people say, but you're racist. That is why it's evidence-based. And those women that are in leadership are so supportive. And together, I do believe that we'll actually empower those of us that are not yet in the room. We intend to assist Chancellor's Fellows to develop themselves, to qualify for promotions to positions of professorate, and assist them to develop and prepare themselves to qualify for the assumption of various leadership positions within the university. We intend to assist the university to create role models for the majority of the student body, assist in the diversification of knowledge production, which our Vice Chancellor is quite vocal about, encourage peer-to-peer mentorship, which my colleague, Professor Stella Ngomo, will talk to more in detail, and encourage multidisciplinary and multi-institutional collaboration, because we really know we are not an island. There is power in numbers, there is power in collaboration, not only within the university, which is important, but also outside the university. We are driven by the values of diversity and inclusion, and it's very important to put those together because diversity is numbers. Inclusion is using that diversity to empower people and to change the status quo and help the institution. Collaboration, I've spoken into that. Integrity and ethical leadership, if I was to put just one thing, I would put that because that's the core of who FALF is. Mutual respect, mentorship. It's important for us to be locally relevant. It's one thing to be globally excellent and be completely irrelevant to the place where you find yourself. So we need both. And as WITS, we are there already, but it can always get better. So I'll say a few words about our first cohorts. As you know, next year we're celebrating 100 years as WITS, which we're very excited about. If it was not for limited funds, we would have actually had 100 fellows to launch, but the funds were not on our side, and I know the donors are listening. Just to give you a picture of the selection, we had 18% coloreds and 82% Africans, and we actually have representation from all the faculties, and that was very deliberate. A lot of people qualified, so if there's anyone who's tuned in who didn't qualify this time, it was really because of a lack of funds, and we are busy raising more funds. Our success doesn't depend on just FALF or just the fellows, but a collective contribution. I saw one of the deans who's here, Professor Ian Chandra, and I know quite a few have joined via Zoom. And if I may just go back a bit, when we started, even before we had a call for proposals, I went to present to the deans because I know how central they are to this. They develop the culture where our fellows go to, and they are completely committed to the cause. And I thank you for that. I have to thank Wits Foundation. And here, this is one of the areas where our VC played a major role. He actually made sure the memorandum of agreement was signed. He made sure I was introduced to the CFO. And yeah, I really appreciate that because, you know, when it comes to big institutions, the red tape can stop something that's very good. But when we have a leader like this, it actually makes a huge difference, and we appreciate that. And as alluded to earlier, an inclusive, supportive culture will be a differentiator between us and those that will not succeed, because we will succeed. And of course, the commitment from fellows is very important. And I've actually been communicating with the Transformation and Employment and Equity Office since I started through Dr. Bernadette Johnson. Cecilia Smith knows my emails, and they've been so supportive, and they continue to be. The research office, Dr. Robin Drenner, has been very supportive. As we speak, he's developed the Oracle accounts for our fellows that they can have access to the funds as and when required. We've started conversations with CLTD, Dr. Gerard Bussing and Rieta, just to make sure that we co-create a leadership program that works for our academic leaders, because it is about leadership. And Professor Khadebe, we also started talks with him at the WBS. So far came at the right time when we actually have these new leaders, Professor Vilagazi, Professor Khadebe, to support the cause. And of course, we are talking to the USAP-led women in leadership leaders. So this intersectionality that I'm so fond of is a term that was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. And I would like to quote Jane Coston, who says that intersectionality accurately describes the way people from different backgrounds encounter the world. The lived experiences of a Black woman will be different from those of a white woman or a Black man. For example, the intention of using an intersectional lens when addressing transformation is to eradicate social hierarchies of exclusion, which have various impacts in society, including gender-based violence because of inequality between genders. As I conclude, before Professor Salome asked me to sit down, I just want to acknowledge donors. I want to thank my family for allowing me to put something in. I want to thank the Mbegani staff that helps me so much in making sure that this day happens and the other days that follow, which is where the main thing lies. The directors of FALF, you have no idea how much they mean to FALF and what they mean to me. And I do hope that fellows will use this. There's so much depth of experience, of knowledge, and passion for the cause. Professor Loyiso Nonga has been my mentor for a long time now. Dr. Q is very passionate about the space. I got worried when he left the NRF, but then I realized this is my opportunity to get him. And Professor Stella Ngomo will be coming through later on. I've known her for many years. She was my sponsor for my doctoral thesis, and she's my mentor. So I'm very lucky that I have such mentors, and I hope you'll feel as lucky too, fellows. And Prof. Salome says I'm her mentor, but she mentors me. So I don't know, maybe it does go both ways. But thank you so much. And also to the academics, I really thank you. I have to pay for this. Rebecca Oppenheimer's Ubomi Trust made it possible for us to have 30 fellows today. I just want us to clap to that. Other sponsors, donors, it's Jacko Marie. Though he's not a VC, he said, I'll support you, I support the cause. MESMAT is doing something with us around GBVF, Ford Foundation, Robert Gumede Kenny Foundation. Those are the sponsors for now, but we're having more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chancellor. And I think I'll use the opportunity also to acknowledge my own mentorship. I think one thing that FALF represents is the values, you know, more than the opportunity, but these opportunities for the values to be transferred, interaction. And much as Dr. Judy is my mentor, but I've gained a grand mentor in Prof. Loyiso over the past year, working towards this. So you can all see how much, you know, we support each other and how much our own values are transferred amongst each other. And through FALF, we want all of this to be transferred to the fellows. You've touched on so many important things, and I just want to acknowledge your own personal commitment to transformation and gender diversity, that you haven't just been an advocate, but you have created opportunities to do this. Many of us are willing to talk and make noise, but you have taken a step to make sure that this is happening. And it reminds me of the words of Barack Obama, where he says, change requires more than righteous anger. It requires a program, and it requires organizing. And the FALF program is exactly that. So thank you, Chancellor, for the work that you're putting in. The next speaker doesn't require an introduction. He's the Vice Chancellor and Principal of UCT. I mean, sorry, apologies. Yeah, I was just testing if everyone's awake. That was planned. Apologies for that mistake. Prof. Zeblan Vilakazi is the Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of the Witwatersrand, described as the epitome of a world-class researcher who is globally recognized for his scientific work and for his contribution towards developing higher education in Africa. Prof. Vilakazi has been instrumental in developing key local and global partnerships that have cemented the university's position as a leader in innovation. This includes ensuring that WITS and other African universities can have access to quantum computing facilities. Under his leadership, Prof. Vilakazi has enabled the university to achieve its strategic objective of creating an enabling environment for a research-intensive and postgraduate-orientated university. I'd like to welcome you.
Thank you, Program Director, Professor Masemo. That actually gave me a nice adrenaline rush to prepare for this. I think before I start, I won't be long. I think I've been given just under 10 minutes to say a few words, but you know, I think it's my privilege and honor actually just to stand here in front of some of the most distinguished role models of my life. But I think let me just first start by paying my tribute for the generosity, not just in Sis Judy throwing her skin in the game, you know, that's an easy part, but generosity of time, generosity of energy, effort, initiative, and thought in putting this together. I think she's been very generous with me, by the way. I think I did nothing much, but just to do my job as a Vice Chancellor, or else I'd be fired to my job. So I think I didn't go in extra length there, Madam Chancellor. And I think I'm privileged to serve the university under, you know, the titular leadership of such a great South African role model, a hero. She's a hero to my wife. Mary looks up to Sis Judy. A hero to many, and a heroine, let me say hero because I must be a hero to many of, and a role model to many of women in South Africa across the entire racial spectrum, and men too. I think let me also not hasten to add. So once again, you really have been a pioneer. You put your heart where you put your heart, mind, and effort into this initiative. Imagine getting all those various moving parts together with one fell swoop, Madam Chancellor. I mean, that actually took you know, things some of us have been battling to pull together, even when I was a Deputy Vice Chancellor, or even my previous life as a head of nuclear research at NEXA and Itemba Labs. With one fell swoop, within a year of being installed here, you just with single, almost like laser-like focus, we're able to put together the foundation, the administration, USAF, NRF, getting retired vice chancellors from, you know, to come, and it worked. I think with that, really congratulations. I think I have on my left here the my hero, my role model, sometimes you actually ask yourself, why are you here? You know, Isaac Newton said that I've seen farther than most men. They use those words, they use men those days, because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. I think that in 1977, at the height of apartheid, I was 8 years old at the time. My brother, I was playing football. I like whatever sport I played at the time as a kid in Katlehong. My brother said, hey, you know, in a kind of like language of the East End. And he said, hey, there was a boy from Eastern Cape of just by Oxford in China. He can maths, you know, beat that guy. So it's not the guy from, this guy from Oxford. He gave me a newspaper, the Post or the World at the time. And the President was that, you know, there's this really bright star from Eastern Cape who's going to Oxford. You know, very what Oxford is. You know where Oxford is. And I think he said, you know, you must try to mimic that guy. So, Loiso, I think, and many others who followed after you. So I think I'd like to thank you. To my friend, Dr. Q, a great servant of South African science. I think a great, you know, what you call a quintessential civil servant. Dr. Q. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, fellow vice chancellors from fraternal institutions, chancellors, members of the academy, South African Scientific Society, civil society, and members of the Best Academy and the senior executive team. I would like to have spent more time with you, but like my vice chancellor, my friend, and from a sister university, UCT, we all have to fight fires now, literally, because I had a fire here at the Charlotte Mahlangu Hospital a few weeks ago. So like Kheti, I had to also fight my fires as well. So the two leading universities have to fight fires, literally. So therefore, unfortunately, I've got a meeting with the Dean of Health Sciences to kind of strategize around how we can really rescue the medical program, because there's a lot of challenges we're facing in that regard. But I think a lot has been said about statistics and challenges we face as a society in addressing this issue. I'll maybe drill down not just to broader statistics and really point a finger at myself, and maybe to Professor Nonga as well, and maybe Ian Jandro, and say that the three of us, mathematics, engineering, physics, right? If you look at global numbers at VETS across even the entire racial spectrum, about half of the academy is female, if you were to consolidate the numbers that were presented by the Chancellor. But if you drill down to the areas that, whether we like it or not, have shaped the 21st century. You look at the picture, I always show this picture of the inventors of Facebook, Google, Uber, Apple, Microsoft, everything around us. Spotify, Telegram, whatever. Whom do you see there? You see basically a guy who maybe 20 years ago was a sporty-faced white boy working from mom's garage, right, wearing a hoodie. That's how we think of a program, right? They probably did mathematics, physics, engineering, mostly electrical engineering, and computer sciences. Probably either at Stanford, MIT, Harvard, and so on and so forth. So from even a very, very tiny, probably middle-class white boys, just to put it quite crudely. And that has shaped the patterns of ownership of global power, if you know how much, you've got now century-trillionaires that are drawn from that particular demographic. So this is a huge global problem. And as a physicist, I like to drill down into, reduced to the core, to the quantum core, the nuclear core of what is the problem. The problem actually starts with paying attention to creating a pipeline of role models in some of these targeted areas, Chancellor. So if you go to now target and focus on areas whether like it or not, those are areas which have historically been underrepresented. I went to a physics conference, American Physical Society conference in Chicago a few years ago, and there was a special session on diversity and inclusion that spoke about gender diversity and, of course, the underrepresented racial minorities, Native Americans, Hispanics, and African Americans. And what came out of that is that actually, even among those demographics, they found that actually only 20%, even among the African American community, only 20% of measures, to use the American term, in physics were female. And that even is a consistent number across all racial groups, from Europe to Germany to to the United States. So it's a big global problem. You can't sit back on our laurels. I come from a field where women were very few in class. in order to find our future mates, we had to go to the West Campus because I mean there were no mates in our class. Yeah, you remember that, right? So we had to go to the law school, to the to the accounting school to find potential future partners. But I think using that as a metaphor to talk about how mature our fields are, and I think also it's got to do with the culture. I think physics culture is quite competitive and quite mature as well. And I think we need to do that. Finally, as well, as a vice chancellor, to solve things in the short term it is easy for a guy to go to the library, a 19 or 20-year-old guy, male, to walk into the library from a res nearby at about, say, 7 o'clock, right? That already gives him an advantage. But I mean, being a father of girls, if you've got like a 19-year-old young woman, that already is an obstacle. You already have a physical obstacle. And I think, what can I do? I cannot solve all problems. As an administrator, with the authority that I have, I've made it a mission critical assignment to ensure that we've got this Braamfontein strategy, that we actually create a cordon sanitaire that is safe for men, women of all races, of all ages to walk, play, and have fun in this place called Braamfontein. It's not going to be done by myself and the executive team and the university. It will require the province and the city to help us in that regard. That is our little contribution to this mission critical assignment that you set us to function on. So with those few words, colleagues, I'd like to thank you. I spoke a lot 2 weeks ago, so I think now I'm going to speak only for 10 minutes. I was given 10 minutes, so I'm done for now. So I think I'll just share with you those two big ideas in terms of the global problem and what we as VES can do to play a minimal role in ensuring that we allow for an even distribution in areas that we've targeted to be where actually there has been an underrepresentation, both in race and gender, with regards to transformation, and broadly, how to create an enabling environment that equalizes the level playing the playing field for both male and female students on campus, and at least within our environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those powerful words, and I completely agree. It's like you said, it's not one person who can do it. It requires all of us. And you could have taken the choice to say, I'll let the next person do it. But you took the choice to say, I'll support this initiative and other initiatives that align with this vision of gender diversity transformation and ensuring that, the hidden figures become visible. So we really appreciate that. The next slot is the introduction of the fellows. As we said, we've got 30 inaugural Chancellor's Fellows, and we'll give this opportunity for each fellow to introduce themselves, those who are attending online and those who are here. We're going to do 3 at a time at one go. You've got 3 minutes each to just introduce who you are, what you're doing, what your project is. And I will call the names, and when it's your turn, then you speak, including the ones at home. So the first 3, it's Dr. Melissa Zulu, Dr. Najma Agedin, and Dr. Nicole Devet Billings. That's Dr. Melissa Zulu, you can start.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much to be really a part of this. It's really exciting. I am from the Department of Marketing, School of Business Sciences in CLM faculty, Commerce Law and Management. And I'm a lecturer currently. And I am busy with projects within the township economy. That's the research I'm focusing on, and that's where my PhD was actually conducted. So I'm really, really passionate about it. And then other 2 projects I'm busy with is as data science in marketing, and then innovation in retailing, given the current space that we find ourselves in. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Najma Agedin.
Thank you so much, Chi. I've got the flu, so my voice is not very audible. Is it okay if I share just a 1-slide presentation?
Yes, go for it.
Thank you. Right, are you able to see my slide?
On our side, not yet.
budget.
On Zoom, we can.
Okay, we can
Oh,
see it now.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm the curriculum and teaching team leader at CLTD, and some of my work, well, my work has always been underpinned by this social justice lens. We are focused on the ethics of care, decolonization, and transformation. So I'll just briefly talk to 3 of the projects that I'm involved in. The one being at an international level. I do believe that care work by implication means drawing on our networks and partnerships and alliances, and I've formed quite a few, which I hope through this fellowship I can continue. I'm an open education for a better world mentor. I've mentored a student from Nigeria last year, and this year I've got a student from Sudan, and that kind of augments my understanding of what diversity and inclusion could be, and transformation that is. At a national level, I'm an expert member of the National Advisory Council on Innovation, and what we are tasked with doing is to develop an M&E framework and come up with indicators of how the sector is transforming. And what we're looking at is the human capacity development. We're looking at institutions, and we're looking at economic transformation. Then at the institutional level, my role at CLTD is to foster curriculum renewal as well as SOTL, the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. And the focus is on decolonization and transformation of epistemologies, ontologies, and pedagogies, because to transform the curricula, that cannot happen if the epistemologies and the ontologies are remain intact. And then lastly, what I would like to do is enroll in a leadership course to kind of augment how I communicate with others, how I add to the discourse and the discipline. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I think the fellowship would really help me to work on this care work that is so needed in this space. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Nicole DeWet Billings.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the fellowship and the opportunity. So I'm an associate professor in demography and population studies in the School of Social Sciences. I'm also an assistant dean for postgraduate studies in the Faculty of Humanities. My study is on the various interruptions in the pathways to development for adolescents. So using population-based data, I'm investigating the ways that environments, political environments, communities, and households contribute to development and health of adolescents in South Africa. In particular, right now, I'm looking at household conditions under COVID restrictions and how that's affecting interpersonal relationships, violence, and education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next 3 are Ms. Lungile Maseko, Dr. Dineo Mpanya, and Dr. Khuliswa Malendini. Ms. Lungile Maseko.
Okay, morning everyone, and I'm Lungi Masego, and I'm currently a lecturer at the School of Construction, Economics and Management. My project focuses on collaborative risk management processes within the construction industry. This actually stems from my PhD work, where construction projects have actually become so complex in terms of their design requirements, technology and stakeholder integration, yet the risk management has actually taken little account of these emergent trends. So these trends have actually made construction professionals to be very cognizant of their professional liability insurances more now than before, because working collaboratively makes it difficult for insurance companies to cover and maintain personal indemnity insurances. So I'll be working hardly and highlighting the needs to accommodate collaborative facets within the design stages of construction processes, and also figuring how stakeholders can claim for professional indemnity within collaborative circumstances of interdependent tasks. And also I will be enrolling in a women in leadership program, so to enhance my leadership capabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dineo Mpanya. Dr. Dineo? Okay, Dr. Kholiswa Malindini?
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank everyone for this opportunity. I am Kholiswa Malindini. I am a lecturer at the Wits School of Governance within the CLM faculty. I'm also a PhD student. This is my final year. And so my project is focusing on examining the effect of governance, the quality of governance in the Southern African region. This project is inspired by the fact that we do not attract as much foreign direct investments as other regions globally. So I am focusing then on the quality of governance in the Southern region, how it affects foreign direct investments into the Southern African region. And I'm hoping that through this fellowship, I'll be able to complete my PhD by the end of this year and gain some skills and be able to interact and gain some knowledge from other participants as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the next three are Dr. Anne George, Dr. Ayanda Magida, and Dr. Motlalepule Nathane Taulel. So Dr. Anne George. Dr. Ayanda Magida.
I'm sorry, I am here. I was just a bit delayed.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm hoping that you can see me clearly. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Just to tell you a bit about myself, I'm a lecturer in the Center for Health Science Education in the Faculty of Health Sciences, where I work in faculty and curriculum development. My research interests focus on the use of educational technology to enhance meaningful learning in the health sciences. And this follows on from my PhD, which looked at meaningful learning in secondary schools. My FALF project, which centers on design-based research into developing and implementing a clinical training open online course into the undergraduate pediatric clinical teaching program, forms part of a larger NRF-funded Tutuka project investigating the effectiveness of online learning in addressing the particular challenges facing health sciences education. I regard it as a particular honor to be among the first group of Chancellor's Fellows. Not only is it a privilege to have been selected as a fellow and be supported along our respective academic journeys, but we also have a responsibility to contribute to the success of the fellowship, which I regard as a particular privilege. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Dr. Ayanda Magida.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. My name is Ayanda Magida. I'm a researcher in the chair of digital business at the Wits Business School. My research focuses on the relationship between income inequality and the digital divide. I'm mainly interested in the research around the social and economic impact of digitalization. So I'm grateful for this opportunity because I believe it will enable me to be able to finish my PhD this year. Thank you.
Dr. Motlalepule.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. It's an honor to be in this space. My name is Tlale Natani. I am a lecturer in the Department of Social Work in the School of Human and Community Development. This is my 14th year as an employee and a lecturer at Wits University. The project that I'm currently working on is an extension of my PhD. The focus of my PhD was a research that I conducted in Everton, one of the oldest townships in South Africa. The focus was on female-headed households and their experiences of father absence. So I interviewed mothers and their children who were over the age of 18. One of the key findings from my study, which is an extension of this project that I'm focusing on, is to explore more on African perspective of fatherhood. Because while in public discourse, we focus on father absence and link that to biological fathers, my findings indicated that there were more alternative or different forms of fatherhood that emanated from the historical and traditional practices of African family. For instance, the role of the maternal uncle, the role of the great aunt, all those people who are playing the father role, you know. So while research was showing that stats on father absence are high, children had access to other forms of fathers who were not necessarily linked to biology. So I'm exploring all those African perspectives of fathering in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three, Dr. Gillian Gardner, Dr. Boni Zungu, and Dr. Busisiwe Dlamini. Dr. Gillian.
Good morning, everyone. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this first cohort of female academic leaders. I'm Gillian Gardner. I'm a senior lecturer at the Steve Biko Center for Bioethics in the School of Clinical Medicine at the Faculty of Health Sciences. I'm currently heading up, or have been heading up, our master's program in bioethics and health law for a number of years. I've been here at the center since 2006, where I started out as the undergraduate program head. I have a background in philosophy, bioethics, and law, and my goals are, in a sense, I think, more modest than many of my fellows here. My aim is primarily to work towards preparedness for promotion to associate professorship, and hopefully in so doing also improve on the status.
Thank you, Dr. Boni Zungu.
Hi, everyone.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Boni Zungu. I'm a senior lecturer in the Department of African Languages in the School of Literature, Language and Media, which is in the Faculty of Humanities. I've been at Wits since 2015, and my research focuses on traditional societies. I was looking at polygyny and gender politics, and how that marriage setup actually affects women and children, and also looking at strategies and ways that rural women use in trying to actually voice out their problems and the challenges that they face in such setups. There was a spin-off from my PhD, which was namely on Zulu anthroponymy in traditional societies. So my research is mainly on indigenous knowledge systems and African traditional religion. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our Chancellor, Dr. Judy Dlamini, for this opportunity and for this initiative that I believe is going to uplift us as women, and so that we can uplift others. Thank you.
Dr. Busisiwe Dlamini.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Busisiwe Dlamini. I'm the senior lecturer in the Department of Social Work, School of Human and Community Development, the Faculty of Humanities. Currently, I'm a senior lecturer, and with effect from January 2021, I'm the head of the department. Just a little bit about my background. So my training is in social work, but then I went and I did my master's in bioethics, health sciences, and I've spent 20 years, in clinical trials, especially with women, the technological prevention of HIV. And I joined VETS again in 2015. My current, I think, position stems from my experience with working with women at grassroots level, and my PhD was on sexual and reproductive health services for young women and men, so for teenagers. And from whilst my research was focusing on the sexual reproductive services that, we spent millions and millions and building up those purple and white and nice looking buildings, which when we look at the outcome, they don't seem to be serving, the service. And one of my observation was that there are many stakeholders, that need to be involved in building up young men and young women. And also the fact that I also used my experience to say, I looked at myself at primary, says, at primary I was one of those A students, always. And then when you get to some spaces, you are silenced. And I've observed the silencing of people, especially in spaces like the academia. I have to say this, sorry, Vice Chancellor, but there are times, when people are silenced here. And me applying for this fellowship is actually influenced by that silencing. I'm currently chairing the transformation committee as well at school, to say the academic journey can be very, very lonely. And if you are going to be a leader, you cannot lead yourself. So when you are leading, there has to be followers and there has to be people aside of you. So what my intention with the fellowship is to work and bring along. I've identified young people who I feel, they've got potential and they don't need to go through the experience of being silenced and not being comfortable to come out and be themselves and achieve and lead in the future. So yeah, and I also want to thank the Vice Chancellor for this opportunity, because it's something that comes once, and I hope we are going to make the young people and women proud by making them not silent as some people have been silenced. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You raised so many important points. I don't know if the Vice Chancellor has noted them. I will carry on. The next three are Dr. Busisiwe Maseko, Ms. Lungile Kambule, and Dr. Lindiwe Lamola. Dr. Busisiwe Maseko.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to thank FALF for this amazing opportunity. It's very rare, and in fact, a first for me to be part of such a group, especially focusing on women of color. So I work as a senior lecturer in the School of Anatomy at the Faculty of Health Sciences. I work as a lecturer, but I also work as a researcher. My background is in neuroanatomy, neuroscience research. So my work, I was always very interested in neuroanatomy and specifically clinical neuroanatomy. But my career was kind of carved out by life because my child was diagnosed with autism, and I started to really deviate and go towards autism research. And I was fortunate enough for a year spanning from 2018 to 2019 that I won a Fulbright scholarship to go basically and work in a lab that focuses on this type of work in California, in the United States. So I got a little added extra that I did not expect while my son and I were living in the United States. I got exposed to different resources that were available to him that were not available in South Africa. And so I learned what more I'm really lacking in South Africa. I could not have imagined that until I was actually undergoing that experience. But another thing that was extremely important that I learned there was that just the social environment was just so much softer. I really have not thought of a better way to put this, but just the community was very much softer to myself and to my little autist. Something that is very, very starkly different in South Africa. When you speak to autism parents, you hear a lot of them say that, you know, we and our families are antisocial, and we kind of have to be, because the society is not well educated on autism. And a lot of what happens is a lot of judgment and a lot of very harsh reception. So just in addition to my research work, I realized that I need to do something, because there are some organizations that are doing very good work in the autism field, but they really don't have my perspective as an autism mom. So I then founded an NGO called the Keanu Autism Foundation, just to try and educate the community around me and around our university, just in terms of how to interact with autistic people. And I think that will come from just an awareness of what is autism. So this is really my mission. So just the research, the neuroanatomy research into autism, and the project that I proposed here, a very large project I'm working on, trying to see if there are any links in the advent of preeclampsia, so a pregnancy complication of high blood pressure and protein in the urine of pregnant women. And just link that to autism outcomes, because I realized that a lot of times when you meet an autistic person and you look back at their medical history, chances are that there was some kind of pregnancy complication, and it's usually linked to this preeclampsia or just some kind of low birth weight result. So as I'm trying to establish the link between those two, I'm also working on the other side on the NGO, just trying to educate the community about autism. And more importantly, I'm trying to just teach the community that autistic children are children and not patients. This is extremely important for my child personally, and also all other children like him. So once again, I'd like to thank you very much for this opportunity. It really is a privilege to be here with you today. Thank you.
Ms. Lungile Kambule.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm actually at work now, busy with the study. So just a brief introduction to what I do and who I am. I am Lungile, and I'm a PhD student, final year this year. And I'm actually doing a study on gestational diabetes. And I'm also a young mother of a girl who's 8 months old. So this also gave me a motivation to actually do the study on gestational diabetes. So gestational diabetes is not really studied in Africa, and especially in our Black African population here in South Africa. And what I'm trying to do in the study is to find markers, biomarkers that can better identify women who are at risk of gestational diabetes, apart from the ones that are available. Because studies have shown internationally that these risk factors that we are using currently are not working to identify the women who are gestationally diabetic, or rather they are not that sensitive. So I'm looking for biomarkers, apart from the ones that are available, that will identify the woman at risk and hopefully diagnose better the gestational diabetes. As we know, currently, they use a test called OGTT, where women have to be exposed, or rather it's invasive because women have to be drawn blood 4 times or so. So I'm trying to minimize that so that women will be encouraged to do this test, and they don't have to be have a high blood sugar in their pregnancy and even after. So that's what I do currently. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lindiwe Lamola.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for choosing me to be part of this fellowship. I'm very grateful for that. My name is Lindy. I'm from the Division of Human Genetics at Faculty of Health Sciences. And my research focus and what I'll be using the fellowship for is in pediatric cancers. So in my project, we're looking at trying to find new ways to diagnose pediatric cancers in order to try to understand this disease better and save children, essentially, because we have found that through research, there's not much that has been done. And usually our children don't survive 5 years post diagnosis. So that's essentially what the project is on, and very grateful to be part of this fellowship, and we'll be using the money for that. Thank you.
The next three, Dr. Maya Makatini, Ms. Mutlala Koma Mwaku, and Dr. Tiffany Nozizwe Tong. Dr. Maya.
Morning, everyone, and I would like to thank the Chancellor and the team for this opportunity. I'm a senior organic chemistry lecturer at the School of Chemistry, and my research project focuses on therapeutic peptides and the use of mass spectrometry as a diagnostic tool. I've partnered with the Barra Hospital in order for us to try and find early biomarkers to diagnose diabetic kidney failure. And I've also partnered with the guys at the NIOH, and where we're trying to develop a point of care device to actually again diagnose arsenic poisoning in minors. So we're trying to use mass spectrometry as a tool for diagnostics and diagnose the problems that we currently have in some of our hospitals and industries. And in the side of peptides, the therapeutic peptides that I normally work with are those that assist in chronic wound healing and those that fight the spread of TB infections. In the case of TB, as you all know, that we're experiencing cases of resistance. So the peptides that we are designing no longer target the cell wall, but we're trying to target the proteins and proteases that are in the mycobacterium so that we can develop new lead drugs. So basically that's what I work with. Thank you.
Ms. Mutlala Koma.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Mohlala Komateri Shangwako, and I am a control systems engineer and also an associate lecturer at the School of Electrical Engineering at Wits. I am currently on my second year of my PhD, and I am passionate about women empowerment, women development, so much that I initiated a project with the School of Electrical Engineering that our head of school was very supportive of, to run a women's conference later on this year, just to empower females in engineering so that we get representation and also gain confidence as female engineers. I specialize in modeling and automation of systems using energy-based approach and also optimization techniques. And most recently, my work has been on efficient energy optimization of electric mining vehicles. I'm hoping that from this project or from this program, I'm able to grow as a leader. I'm still very young at this stage. And while growing in this program, I'm hoping that I'm able to grow with other females through the project that I have initiated with the school, so that we build a group of females to grow with us. And I'm hoping that this program allows for me to fund for some of my publications. And yeah, I think that's essentially it. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Dr. Dinzwalo Mesihlungwane.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dinzwalo Mesihlungwane. I'm fortunate because I've got two names that mean the same thing. So Dinzwalo is Messi, so you can call me Messi. I'm a senior lecturer in the School of Public Health, Faculty of Health Sciences. I'm responsible for few teaching programs, and teaching has been my passion since I joined the university. I spent about 13 years teaching neurosciences and health promotion to undergraduate students until I was told that I had to do my PhD. That's when I started focusing on research. I did my research on mental health of children. but my passion was still on teaching. And I was introduced to teaching health management in 2013. And with Professor Letitia Rispel, we developed a course for health management for the Masters in Public Health students. So we also realized as a school that we needed competencies for our students as managers and leaders at their workplaces, because every time they reflect on their experiences at the workplace, they all talk about the same thing, the burden of disease, resource constraints, restraints with human resources. And they're talking about all that is restraining, coming up with positive health outcomes. So ever since I started teaching this, I've been curious about how they grow as leaders and managers at their workplaces, because we teach them management skills. They go back to their workplaces, face the same situation. The next cohort comes back with the same problems. So fortunately, Professor Rispel initiated, a reflective diary, because students come, we send them to, the 6 weeks program, they go, we allocate them to some health facilities where they go and identify a health problem and then help the managers to come up with a solution. And they go back home, they go back to their workplaces. We ask them to do the same thing at their workplaces, but there was no reflection on how they grow as managers and leaders. So ever since we started this reflective diary, where they do at least one entry per week for 6 weeks, we are seeing a pattern of the issues that they are raising. So I've been curious about, coming up with a research project just to analyze what the students are coming up with and to come up with a model for using a reflective diary in terms of teaching management and leadership skills. So that's why I applied for this, put aside my mental health and neurosciences research, and I want to focus on analyzing this using a grounded theory approach. Thank you.
Morning, my name is Tandiswa Nqo and I'm from the Division of Human Genetics. Thanks for this wonderful opportunity. My project focuses on the genetics of skin disorders, and I've used 2 projects in my application for this funding. The first one is trying to identify the genetic cause of vitiligo in Africans, and this will be the first study of its kind in Africans. The second one is to try to identify other genetic causes for albinism in Africans. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd just like to check again if Dr. Dineo Mpanya is there.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so sorry I couldn't be a part of the meeting as expected. I'm not feeling well, but I would like to really thank our Chancellor and her team, as well as the university, for such a great opportunity. I'm looking forward to meeting our fellows, as well as collaborating with them as well. My name is Dineo Mpanya. I am a specialist in nuclear medicine and molecular imaging. I qualified in 2016, and thereafter I did my master's, and currently I am a full-time PhD student here at Wits University, and my project entails mining a database with all the patients admitted at Charlotte Macheke Hospital since 2009, and my role is to extract patients with heart failure based on the ICD-10 code. That's actually what I'm currently busy with right now. And the ultimate goal is to train a machine learning algorithm to predict in-hospital mortality and rehospitalization. So we're trying to really create our uniquely African risk calculators so that we can re-stratify patients into low risk or high risk, such that high risk patients are subjected to therapy terminously. If they need cardiac devices, they get them terminously as well. Whereas with the low risk patients, we can obviously transfer them to other hospitals, and then they can be seen there even by, you know, general practitioners or any other doctor working within the primary or secondary care level. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And like again, I said, I'm looking forward to excuse me, collaborating with the fellows, and also just, you know, being supportive and being a pillar of strength for one another. Thank you.
And just to double check, Dr. Kongo, if you are here. Okay, we're going to take a break before we continue with the other introductions. I think it's been excellent, amazing meeting all of you and hearing about the work you're doing. And I think I just have three things that I want to say just from listening to all of you. I think the first one is that we are here. You know, I've said often in leadership meetings where there's a discussion on why the teams are not as diverse, and often it's said that no, Black women are looking after their parents, their children, they're not interested in this type of thing. And this is evidence that we are here and we want to be in these leadership positions and we want to progress and grow. The second thing I want to say is your dreams are valid. You know, sometimes it really takes a mentor, a sponsor, a funding opportunity for you to fly. And maybe this opportunity might be that for some of you. And the last thing is we can't change the past, but we can change the future. So the journey up to now maybe wasn't easy, it could have been rocky, difficult, and the things you've experienced are real and they are valid. But you don't have to stay in that point, in that place of despair and anger. The future can be changed and you can achieve your dreams. Thank you very much. We're going to take a 25-minute break. All right. At 11:15, we'll continue.
Yeah, no, we're taking now. Congratulations for the coronation. Yeah. Yeah. Like that. Maybe 8 or 9. That's all I can do. But I'll come first. Anyone. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I wanted to come to your house with my wife because what from Glasgow, it's not from Glasgow, from Alex. But she wanted to talk a little bit more. But after that, how do you coordinate this action? Yes.
Hi, Michelle. Oh, no, I was just calling to let you to the voting side. I saw that you already. Come na tiwa to shift. So someone. No, no, yeah.
No. Go ahead, no, just.
Oh. Yeah, kitli isi ya buara unali like ring ya na ya udi. So ne ba tsa itheo sa. Ya utlala na? Ya utlala mo speaker. Test 1 2. Test 1 2 test. Fedagaskaya check 1 2 outside, and I'm speaking quite low, no? Yeah, no. Yeah, the sound, no. I put the levels a bit too far, see, because so yeah. Yeah, crazy voice prof VC coding. So yeah. Like check 1 2 check 1 2 check.
One poster. Are we on mute there? Can I fetch a tablet go 11th floor?
Audio visual, please unmute.
In precarious employment. And we only recognize the value when we have to do screenings for COVID because of the ability for reach and coverage. So my study will be particularly focusing on the governance model of the community health worker program and the community health workers' relationship with other healthcare professionals, especially nurses in healthcare facilities, because that's how we'll be meaningfully be able to integrate them into the health system. So I'm hoping that the findings of the study will generate knowledge on the strengths and weaknesses of implementation of the program and the implications of those aspects on universal health coverage reforms in the country. Thank you.
Dr. Mpo. Dr. Nontsikelelo.
Good morning. I'm grateful for this opportunity. And my name is Nontsikelelo Komo. I'm a lecturer at the Wits School of Education in the mathematics division. So we do teacher training for mathematics teachers. I teach undergraduate courses and I also teach the PGCE supervised postgraduate students. PGCE are people who are coming in with a mathematics degree, pure mathematics degree, and they need some educational knowledge for them to be able to stand in the classroom and teach. So those are some of the courses I teach. My research area is on the ideas of explanation, really, because as you would know, mathematics education in this country is in a dire state, okay? So there are just too many problems facing the education as a whole, but in particular mathematics education. So to add to the debates and the ongoing conversations as to how do we go about improving mathematics education in the country, my own study looked at the idea of explanations. And in the field of mathematics education, the idea of explanations is conflated. It's not sufficiently researched. So it's an idea that is not sufficiently researched. So it has some confusions in the ways in which it is described. So my own work is to provide some analytic clarity and to separate the words explanation from explaining from a pedagogical point of view within the context of mathematics education. So the fellowship, of which I am grateful for, is going to provide the much needed time to focus on publications where I'm concerned, because it's hard, as you would know, as a lecturer in this university, because you have to juggle between your teaching job and your preoccupations with creating your own identity as an academic and conducting research alongside all of those things. So it's going to allow me
to have some time to focus on publications because those are needed for upward mobility in the academic ranks in this university. So you can't become mobile really without those. And also to kickstart myself into a new research path, not necessarily new, but an extension of the ideas that I obtained from my PhD study. Thank you.
The next three are Dr. Palesa Mochavi, Dr. Tisetso Lepoto, and Dr. Prudence Ditlopo. Dr. Palesa. Dr. Tisetso. And Dr. Prudence.
Okay, good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Prudence Ditlopo, and I am a senior researcher at the Center for Health Policy, which is a grant-funded research unit based at the School of Public Health. And I am also holding a doctoral degree in public health. And my research experience and expertise has been in the field of health systems and policy, specifically on the human resources for health. And the bulk of my research has been focusing over the years on nurses. And I'm currently a principal investigator of a cross-sectional study investigating the three-way relationship among health facility management and governance, health workforce outcomes, specifically job satisfaction of the nurses and their intention to leave, as well as patients' quality of care, specifically looking at the patient's perceptions of the health system's responsiveness and the quality of care provided to individuals with hypertension and diabetes. And the project is funded by the NRF Tuchuka grant, and it will be conducted at primary healthcare level. And I will use several methodologies that I will not get into now. And I hope that the study will generate evidence that will contribute to improving the management at primary healthcare level, as well as addressing nursing challenges and improving the quality of care at PHC level. And the project falls under the Professor Letitia Rispel-Sachi chair on the health workforce, and she's been quite a support structure in assisting me with the project. And I see the fellowship as an important step in helping me to attain promotion to associate professor and acquiring leadership skills and an opportunity to transfer those skills. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
And then Dr. Smangele Maisela, Dr. Veronica Nzia, and Dr. Tama Duba. Dr. Smangele.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm very grateful to be part of this fellowship. My name is Mangele Maisela. I have obtained my PhD in 2017 through the fellowship, The Next Generation of Social Sciences in Africa. My study then focused on the intergenerational and psychological processes involved in the perpetuation of corporal punishment in South African schools. And emanating from that study was a number of papers, and as well as the current study that I will be using the fellowship for. And that study looks into, it actually is the, it comes out of the changes, the drastic changes brought about by the COVID-19. And I began to think about the reduced number of learners, the teacher-learner ratio in the classroom. How would that impact on learners' behavior and performance, and the reduction of stress among teachers? therefore, reducing the need for the use of corporal punishment. So for this fellowship, I'll be using the resources provided that I'm very grateful for to pursue that study. Currently, I'm the PI for the study, also emanating from the opportunities provided by, the pandemic. I'm looking into the peri-traumatic stress among teachers as a precursor for post-traumatic stress in the later months. This study will inform the Department of Education on how to respond on the likelihood of the increase of post-traumatic stress among teachers. I'm very grateful for this fellowship, and I would like to thank Dr. Judy Dlamini for providing this opportunity. And I'm very grateful for meeting all the fellows in this program. I'm looking forward to further engage with them in the near future. Thank you.
Dr. Veronica.
Good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I would like to say specifically, thank you very much, Dr. Dlamini, for creating this and your team, because for me, this is an opportunity for me to work towards promotion to the next level. I'm currently an associate professor in the Department of Physiotherapy, and I'm also head of department since 2019. But I was listening to other people indicating when they joined VETS, and I realized, oh, I've been at VETS for too long now. Maybe I should have been at full professorship by now. It's 19 years, it will be 20 years in November this year. But when I joined, I was training at senior tutor level. So I've worked my way up all these years, working towards doing a part-time master's and then going into lecturer, then doing PhD, senior lecturer, and then working on establishing myself and then moving towards associate professor. But I was hoping that by now I would be a personal professor, but I realized with time that it takes quite a lot to get to that, and that one needs to have a balance between the research and the teaching that one is doing and the admin. So what I like about this opportunity is that one would have, the funding that I have is primarily for time out to focus more on completion of the research projects and to also increase the publications and to help me, because my goal was to hopefully 2022, latest 2023, reach the level of personal professor. But then the research projects I'm working on is primarily neurorehabilitation, specifically stroke. We're focusing more on stroke prevention, seeing that there's a high incidence of stroke, and then it also affects young people these days. So it affects their quality of life, reduces their participation in the economy. Those who are working, we have research projects where we're focusing on return to work program. We have an intervention program, and it has shown that those who participate in the return to work programs do return to work. We know when the stroke is severe, it reduces those chances, but then we're focusing on the less severe strokes and assisting with that. But the primary projects that I'm working on in Alexandra and Soweto, we're looking at stroke awareness projects. We're having an intervention wing in Alexandra, and we're also having Soweto as our control wing. So I'm a PI on that project. So we're looking at health promotion lifestyles. We're also looking at access to medication, because we know most of the stroke survivors we see, if we're looking at the secondary promotion wing, they have stroke because of hypertension, and some of them are not taking the medication, or there's poor understanding of the consequences of not adhering to the medication. And so we're working on that. And we're trying to come up with context-specific intervention measures. So, and we're also looking at the rehabilitation services, because we know that most stroke survivors get discharged within 12 days in most of our hospitals in South Africa, and then they need to have rehabilitation service post-discharge. So at the moment, we're looking at tele-rehabilitation services, and then we're also looking at empowering the caregivers to assist those who need intervention at home. And we're also working on programs to assist with self-responsibility programs for some of the stroke survivors to do some of the activities on their own. So, and we're hoping that now with the use of technology and tele-rehabilitation, we'll have some of the stroke survivors doing their activities independently at home, but not taking away from the need to have rehabilitation services and an increase in stroke rehabilitation units. And I'm also working on the outcome measures that are context specific, but we're working a lot with master students to make sure the outcome measures that are developed in other countries are specific to our context. Specifically at the moment, we're looking at predictive validity of outcome measures, or even the measures that are used to determine whether a person can be admitted into a rehabilitation unit. So we're working with the Gauteng Stroke Working Group, and I'm also working with the rehabilitation, the neuro rehabilitation group in South Africa. And so we're collaborating on those projects. So then the benefits primarily I indicated for this fellowship for me, besides just having this opportunity to work with sisters in academia, I'm looking forward to getting mentorship and getting motivation from seeing others progress, and I believe we'll be giving each other reports. I'm also hoping that it will strengthen my ability to be a capacity builder in future, where I'll be able to then have projects where I have PhD and master students on the project. Currently, one of the projects is funded by MRC. I've applied for NRF funding to also fund one of the other projects, because my passion is more in capacity building. I currently have 14 MSc students and 4 PhD students, and I hope that with time, one would see more and more people moving up the ranks. And yeah, thank you.
Dr. Duba.
Thank you, everyone, and good morning. I am a lecturer in the School of Computer Science and Applied Mathematics, and I am in the Applied Mathematics section. I have studied the mathematics of planet Earth, where we have been looking at the waves that are causing the El Nino and the La Nina that are involved in climate change. That was my research in the PhD. So currently I'm looking at the waves in the planet Sun, because the climate in the Sun as well may cause issues for the satellite technology and the radio technology. So research has now moved into the climate in the Sun. So that's what we're looking at the moment. One of the things I also do is that I'm involved in mentoring women in mathematical sciences. And I am very passionate at the moment, since I have been going to schools talking about careers in STEM and motivating the high achievers and preparing students for the exams. So now I have become passionate in going to schools, becoming more like a mathematics ambassador, if you could call that, just to go and motivate. And because I see the application of mathematics in what I am doing, one of the major questions students ask is, where are we going to use this mathematics? And so I want to go into the schools with 3 things. That 1, mathematics is doable. 2, mathematics can be applied. Number 3, that mathematics is beautiful.
A powerful way to end off.
We'll just do a final round to check if some of the others who were not there are available. Dr. Kongo.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I would like to echo everybody's words of gratitude and appreciation of being part of this fellowship, and to say congratulations to Dr. Dlamini for demonstrating leadership in academia. We're not only going to benefit from the fellowship, but we're benefiting from observing how things can be done. I am Daphne Nozizwe Kongo, a senior lecturer at the School of Public Health, responsible for teaching the MPH program, Masters for Public Health. And I am also a focal point person for CATA, which is a consortium for advanced research training in Africa, which is a consortium of 8 universities in Africa responsible for promoting research within the continent. And for this fellowship, this fellowship is going to help me on the research that I had already started and working on. The title of the research is the National Incomplete Abortion Research Study. The study was done in 1994 first, and then it was repeated in the year 2000. And 15 years later, there was a feeling that we need to check where we are. So why is this study important? It's because women who are not accessing services for safe abortion care at the public health services end up having to utilize services from illegal spaces, which is danger to them. And this becomes danger to their health, but also a burden to the public health system. So the 94 results demonstrated beyond doubt why there was a need to change the act that was existing then. And when it was repeated in the year 2000, it was just to check where are we in terms of implementation of that act. And now we are looking into how are we doing now that our democracy is supposed to be matured? How are we valuing women in this country by making services that are most needed by them accessible to women? So my role is as a principal investigator. I'm hoping this fellowship is going to assist me in the writing up and publishing and making sure that this information that we get from this research reaches the policymakers at all different levels so that they can understand what is the reality for women who are trying to access health services in this country. Thank you very much.
Dr. Mpo, Dr. Mochavi, and Dr. Lepoto. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like you to all give yourselves a round of applause. I think we're all excited to meet you in person and virtually, and we all look forward to the great things that you're all going to do. The real success of this program depends on you, not on us. And so we're hoping you'll make the most out of it and that we'll have testimonies out of the year that you've spent and going forward from being a fellow. The 2 things I'd encourage you to do if you haven't yet is find a mentor, number 1, and find a mentee, number 2. We all speak about, standing on the shoulders of giants. You should also look at your shoulder and ask yourself who's standing on your shoulder and reciprocate what you are getting. We're going to move now to the next part, which is the presentations from the board members. Our first talk will be on research, and it will be both Professor Loyiso Nonga and Dr. Molapo Kobela. Prof. Loyiso Nonga is currently Prof. Emeritus at Wits University, Honorary Professor at the University of Pretoria, and Extraordinary Professor at the University of the Western Cape. He retired as ad hominem Professor of Mathematics at the University of Wits in December 2018, has spent 18 years at the university. From 2000 till 2013, he served on the senior executive team of Wits. From 2000 to 2002 as DVC for research, 2003 to 2013 as Vice Chancellor and Principal. Prof. Nonga was elected as one of 2 presidents of the International Mathematical Union at the AGM in Sao Paulo in 2018. The term is from 2019 to 2022, and he serves as the liaison person between IMU and UNESCO, as well with the International Science Council. And lastly, Prof. Nonga attended Oxford University, as we heard, round about the time that some of us were born in this room. Prior to that, he was a student at the University of Forte when he completed his BSc degrees in mathematics and mathematical statistics and an MSc in mathematics. And Dr. Kobela is a plant microbiologist with over 30 years of professional experience in higher education, research, science, and technology. This experience includes previous positions as an academic and as a senior executive in government and higher education, previous CAO of the NRF, previous chair of the Global Research Councils, and current chair of TENET. Thank you.
Colleagues, Madam Chancellor, Vice Chancellor in his absence, we've got the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research with us, which is absolutely wonderful. The chairman and I are sharing 15 minutes. And culturally, the elder speaks last. And the elder speaks the longest. So we agreed, I will take 5 minutes. And then he will take the last 10 minutes. Salome has been incredibly generous. We are exactly on time, and I don't want to be the one who is holding you back. We are mindful that the Deputy Vice Chancellor is also going to be talking to the same topic. So we hopefully are not going to try and cover the same issues. I work for you. So if we had a little bit more time, it would have been much better to have an interactive engagement rather than us, in essence, talking to you. And because it's more important to hear over and above the wonderful work that is being done. In fact, some of us are scared because I'm thinking when I was that age, whether I was doing some of the incredible things that you're already doing, I doubt. So it's something, if the time allows, maybe at the end of the process, to just have those conversations around what are the issues that are important to you. Because we are a community, I thought it would be useful. How is it possible that I'm not able to? Yes, you can see, but I want to move on.
Yeah.
The technologically challenged. Thank you. I just needed to. This is the profile. This is who we are at the moment. We've listened to each other. I had the honor of escorting 2 of our fellows this morning to Senate Hall, and they promised me that this is their first time, but definitely not their last time in these chambers. And they did indicate that they've given themselves a number of years before they become full professors to get into this hall in that way. 22 of us already have our doctorates. 8 of us have registered for a PhD, And if you look at the HEMA stats, this is the national data on universities, WITS is sitting at 66% of its research and instructional staff, which is about 1,200. 66% have doctoral degrees. So we're going to be increasing that. We are second only to another funny university up north in Pretoria, and who's sitting at 69%. And so it goes without saying that a doctoral degree is an important entry into the academic profession, and so that's one of the things. When I did the slide, I didn't pick up the fact that Dr. Veronica Ntsiela is already C2 rated. So we have one rated individual in here, and it's useful because one of the things that we want to do is to learn from each other. What's the value of the rating? How did you go about doing it? What experiences can you share with us? Because among us, there are definitely a number of whys, and I'm not sure, Chancellor, if we've got a couple of P's in here as well, because I think we should aspire for that. And maybe I'll talk to that issue of rating a little later. Disciplines, the Chancellor has talked to that. But one of the things that struck me is that by and large, health sciences, clinical health sciences, is usually not seen as a discipline that participates in such initiatives. And it's absolutely fantastic to see that we have, in part because there are peculiarities in the clinical system that make it even a greater challenge relative to the other disciplines. I'll come to the issue of additional funding, in part because, as the other colleagues will talk to, this is a journey. There is a journey from being an associate lecturer to a full professor. There's a journey to being not rated, to being A-rated, to A1. There's a journey for us to become a research chair. There's a journey to become a head of department, a dean, a deputy vice chancellor, and the next vice chancellor of the university. And part of that, it's about how we continue to engage among ourselves and share and find other creative ways of making sure that what we have started continues by leveraging on other opportunities that are existing. So as we have heard, some of us are already getting MRC funding. 3 of us have got Tutuka, NRF Tutuka. Some of us have got NRF grants of different types, including sabbatical grants. Discovery has been, and the international foundations, international grants. Fogarty is one example. I've already alluded to Fulbright as well. The Chancellor has already talked about the fact that we're here on a transformation agenda. But it is transformation also to assure the sustainability of this university. The assurance of sustainability, not just in environmental terms or economic terms, but also in terms of the knowledge base of the university. The people who are going to be pushing back the boundaries of knowledge, but also ensuring that that knowledge creates impact for society, creates impact in terms of social transformation in itself. And lastly is transformation with excellence. The fellows are self-selected. It's not everybody who got a fellowship. And the fact that we are here is testimony to the fact that we, in many ways, we are cut above the rest. We know what the fellowship provides. And what I want to do with the 1 or 2 minutes that is remaining is just to share with you 2 other opportunities that are existing, and it would be wonderful to hear from you at tea time or whenever, to understand if you were aware of them, if you had applied for them, if you hadn't, why not, if you have, if you got a letter which indicated you're not successful, what are those things that we need to be able to do to be able to leverage over and above. As I said, Tutuka, we already have 3 Tutuka grant holders in here. They can share their experience. But it's got 3 tracks, the PhD track, post-PhD, and the rating track. And I particularly raised the rating track because some of us, like I said, could be on a Y track, and some of us could be on a C track. And so that's something that we need to keep at the back of our mind. This is what it supports. The duration is generally for 6 years, but it could go all the way to 9 years if you are started with your funding as a doctoral candidate. So it's a long-term support system, and it allows you to be able to continue to do your work while being supported. The BAPP, the Black Academic Advancement Program, has a PhD track and a post-PhD track. That one is slightly similar to FALF in the sense that it responds to your specific needs. Whether it's 6 months to complete your doctorate, 1 or 2 years for your doctorate, or you have already got your doctorate, but you actually want to do something interesting. So you want to go and spend a year somewhere. You want to bring in an individual to come and work with you, or whatever the case may be, a research grant. And you will see that unlike the TUCA, which asks for co-funding from the university, there is no co-funding in this instance. There is no rating track support, but it gives you the flexibility to custom make what is it that you are looking for. And the amounts are not insignificant, including lecturer replacement, which is important, a matter that everybody has pretty much raised so far. My last slide is why should we bother with rating? Some of us that have gone through the process will know that it can be very, should I say, cathartic. It forces you to do some serious introspection, because it is about benchmarking. It's about reflecting on yourself and relative to your peers. For those that are starting on a career, you get a sense of feedback, where you are, where you could be, what are the issues that you need to work on. For those that are established, it gives you a stimulus for maintaining or evolving the level of research excellence. When it comes to funding, it's something that people take heed of. Some of our universities use it as a proxy for performance, and sometimes it is taken as something that you, should I say, considered when it comes to promotions and so forth. I'm not sure about Wits University, but the Vice Chancellor could talk to that. Many universities, including this one, use it as a marketing, because it gives a sense of the prowess of the university, and obviously the affirmation of scientific standing through this instrument. It has been going for over 30 years. It has evolved over that time, and it's something that we want to use where we can. But again, it would be a wonderful opportunity if we get the time to hear your views about some of these things. Mr. Chairman, can I hand over to you?
Thank you. I need to load my slides. So how do, okay.
There you
said
go.
that I should just share screen. And there we are. Yep. Good morning, everybody. It's a privilege for me to be here. I spent many years sitting at this desk, chairing difficult meetings and listening to people making arguments around a whole range of things. I've chosen a topic that I know very little about, almost nothing. And that is the joy of, one of the joys of being retired, that you can embarrass yourself and say stupid things. Nobody's going to remind you in 6 months' time when you apply for promotion or for appointment. My background is in mathematics. Yes, mathematics can be applied. Yes, mathematics is beautiful, but mathematics in the wrong hands can be abused. And that's one of the things, that's one of the messages that I'm going to use here. It's a combination of research performance evaluation, which is something I know a little bit about, because in a previous life at this university, I was Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research. And it's one of the things that I had to read around when people talked about general impact factor, when people came to my office to argue that they should be recommended for a B rather than a C, and so on. And there's lots of literature around research performance evaluation. and a number of mechanisms around research evaluation apply elementary mathematics or some probability and statistics. So that's the connection between being a mathematician and possibly an appreciation of performance evaluation. I've got a gut feeling about what is social capital, and I've experienced how it works in countless meetings that I participated in at this university, either in appointments or promotions, where I would come away with a conclusion that the criteria that were used went beyond what was on the table around research, performance, research excellence, and teaching. It was about who you know, who knows you, who can bring additional information about what's on the table that is not on your CV. So that's one of the reasons I felt that I should raise this, because there are people in transformation that maybe the university can reflect on whether or not this has an impact on what we do. Some of the issues, okay, lastly, before I move on to this, I think people out there or even in this room who are in social sciences will be chuckling and saying that this is something very deep, social capital in social sciences. What does a mathematician know about it? I know very little. I've said that. So some of the issues for consideration, not only today, but later on, is what is social capital? And the little that I've read about it is that it has many dimensions. So one is not going to try and define it. Now, for a society, secondly, for a society like ours, which is patriarchal, which has got a history of racial discrimination, how do we conceptualize social capital? Whatever definition. Thirdly, I've already spoken a little bit about different, there are different processes for research evaluation. I will just focus on peer review, which is one of the standard trusted methodologies for evaluating people for a whole range of things. And bibliometrics, which is based on mathematics and statistics. Question that I have no answer for, and I think very few people would have an answer for, maybe there's no answer for it, is whether social capital has an impact on research evaluation. My gut feeling is that it does. My gut feeling is that the NRF rating, social capital counts for something, but I cannot put a finger on it and say that this is how it works. So if it does have an impact, how can institutions like WITS assist young people to grow their social capital? I've got some ideas or some examples of what you can do that you can reflect on. And secondly, what can early career academics do to grow their social capital in academia? I mean, if you Google social capital, you'll come across, as usual, hundreds of links. And I came across this one here, which I quite liked, which says that social, for some reason, can you come and help me here? Because I won't be able to, just to remove the, part there. This is, okay. So it's defined by the OECD as networks, together with shared norms, values, and understandings that facilitate cooperation within or amongst groups. Now, groups can be defined in many different ways: by race, by gender, by discipline, by faculty, by school, by research unit, and so on. Now, in this definition, we can think of networks as real-world links between groups or individuals. And those links can be strong or weak. They can be friendly or antagonistic. Think of networks of friends, of family, of former colleagues, and so on. These networks and understandings engender trust. And I would like you to keep in mind this word trust, because it crops up every now and again that some of these things are based on trust rather than some objective criteria. And it enables people to work together. Now I can't move my slide. I'm hard of hearing, so maybe it's a good thing I didn't hear you.
All we're saying is that we are online these days.
So you wouldn't
Okay, I
survive.
should use that. Now, I said earlier on that I've got a gut feeling how this works, and some observations that I can make, which maybe some people would call, no, that's just a spurious correlation. At most universities, you'll find that the proportion of people who are graduates of that university is much higher than others. Nobody's going to tell me that the excellence in mathematics resides with people who have got PhDs from mathematics who apply for a job at Wits. But you find that not only at Wits, but in many universities, including Oxford and Cambridge. There's a wonderful book that maybe you might look, which is called The Oxbridge Conspiracy, which looks at the overrepresentation of graduates from Oxford and Cambridge in many sectors of British society. The second one is I've been looking over the last year or so at NRF ratings, and there are some things that really I find fascinating and puzzling. Currently, and this information is on the public domain, you can check your own discipline there. There are 11 A-rated mathematicians, all of them are male. By the way, NRF rating was introduced about 40 years ago. There's only been one female mathematician who has been A-rated, and she's white. I can tell you something about the distribution of Black female rated mathematicians. There are only 4 in almost 40 years of rating of mathematics. Now, one thing that I find striking about rated mathematicians is that most of them come from outside. They either immigrated to South Africa or have been educated. If they are South Africans, they've been educated at other universities. And I've said on a few occasions that it seems as if our university system is incapable or is struggling to produce highly rated people. And therefore, a rating, there's an element of international exposure. And in fact, a study by Dr. Chu and somebody else in introducing a new program came to the conclusion that young people were P-rated. One of the things that they had in common is that they had had an experience of postdoc and in many cases at research institutes elsewhere. In evaluating people, let's say for appointment, we do look consciously or subconsciously at where they got their university. I know for a fact that this took me seriously because I've got a PhD from Oxford. That's the only thing that I took seriously. Okay, versus somebody has applied elsewhere. This reputation of your supervisor, it does carry weight. And I'm glad that a number of you referred to my good friend, Professor Letitia Rispel, because she's excellent at mentoring. And it means something that you have worked with somebody like here, or you come from the School of Public Health at which there is a preponderance of people from public health in this group. Is that accidental, or we can explain it one way or another? Maybe we can. Now, peer review is regarded as objective, and we have a deep belief as academics in peer review. I just want to read this for you, which is written by a former editor of the British Medical Journal. And in fact, he points out to some experiments that they conducted in sending manuscripts to reviewers. So he says, and I quote, "So we have little evidence of the effectiveness of peer review, but we have considerable evidence on its defects. In addition to being poor at detecting gross defects and almost useless for detecting fraud, it is slow, it is expensive, profligate on academic time, highly subjective, something of a lottery, prone to bias and easily abused. Nevertheless, it is likely to remain central to science and journals because there is no obvious alternative. And scientists have a continuing belief in peer review. How odd that science should be rooted in belief," end quote. Now, there are countless examples, or you can find examples where this thing has been investigated. And one of the things that I picked up is that most of the papers that I came across are in the health sciences, where this phenomenon has been investigated. There's something called unconscious bias, and nobody can deny that in one way or another, we are biased in favor of or against something. I am biased in favor of mathematicians, and I try to be aware of that. I'm biased against certain forms of mathematics, but I'm not going to go into that. So if somebody has got 300 papers, but in some area of mathematics that I'm biased against, then I'm going to look differently at that. So there is this unconscious bias. And in fact, an organization like the Royal Society has highlighted this and written a short, nice paper about how people should be conscious of their unconscious bias. Citation is biased, right? If there's a paper by a highly regarded person and a paper by somebody who's emerging, I'm likely to quote the person who's highly regarded to demonstrate that I've read the work of productive people instead of quoting a paper by somebody who's coming through. So there is bias in citation. And in fact, there are some papers which show that there's a gender bias in citation. One could ask, of course, I mean, it depends on who you know and so on. Question of peer review bias, I've already referred to this paper here by the former editor of the British Medical Journal. But we're biased in favor or against. Now, people would say that when you have got blind refereeing or double blind refereeing, how is it that you are going to know the identity of the author? The answer is easy. Now that we're living in the world of data analytics, you can anonymize data, you can de-anonymize data. If somebody is saying, I'm following up on a study that is in the reference, then that's a giveaway that the person, the reference there is the person actually who's the author. So there is ways where you can, in fact, know the identity of the person. So I'm not going to give advice to the leadership of this university because I'm careful that as somebody who was in a leadership position, I could be accused of prescribing what the next generation should be doing. But just a few issues that I can recommend to you, which are common sense for the young people. Just make sure that the people in leadership position know about your work. Don't hide away in your office. Go out there, talk to the VC. Find something silly to talk to the VC and the DVC and the dean and so on. They will notice you, especially if you say something outlandish. Second one is that network. Network and network. And it's an important area that we have not paid attention to. The mentors, and mentoring is one of the things that are going to be part of this program. The mentors will introduce you to their intellectual network. That's one of the positives about networking. Listen to advice, value, or mentorship. Please be visible. And I say this from experience because my years at the University of Natal, I decided to be invisible. I was shy. I still am. I didn't go to the common room. I didn't have for 4 years that I did the University of Natal. And as a result, people that arrived with me at the same time, within 4 years, they were at the senior lectureship level. And I stayed at a lectureship level at the University of Natal all the years that I was there. Go to seminars that have nothing to do with your specialization. Listen, jot down some notes and ask questions. You get noticed when you ask questions, okay? So ask questions because maybe people will assume that you know something outside of your specialty, which you should. And lastly, identify opportunities to participate in research evaluation processes, because in this way, you'll gain experience of how these processes work and how you can maximize your own opportunities in terms of advancing your career. Thank you very much.
Thank you for an amazing talk. If I would just add one thing, make business cards. I learned that trick that, you know, even though my business card said nothing, but during these coffee breaks, you greet someone and pull out a business card. Later, they might just call you and email you. Luckily, I don't have to introduce myself and read a long bio. I'm going to continue along similar lines, and I'm talking about academic citizenship, and hoping you'll also get a few things from this talk. And most of the focus is always on the science, that become good scientists, make a contribution to science. But what we really want to talk about with academic citizenship is your contribution as the scientist, and what can you as the scientist do as you are now a member of this academic, citizen of this academic institution, academic globally, and all of that. So the one thing that I want to highlight from the beginning is, influence is gonna be the biggest thing that you should strive for and aim for. Often when talks about academic citizenship come up, it's about promotion, and it's about saying how quickly can you get promoted. But I think the notion and the narrative that I would like to share with you is taking a step back and saying, how can I make a difference? How can I influence society? What can I do differently as a scientist? And with my standing in the community or in the academic community, what can I do differently and contribute to this world? My slides are not showing. Thanks. So how do you position yourself for influence and change? And similarly, you'll often be told join committees, join technical working groups, but it also needs to start from a place of understanding why you should do these things. It's not just so that it looks good on your CV. Again, it's so that you make a difference and you're influential. And so a good starting point will be in your department. Everywhere there are some small committees, there are people doing things to make a difference. It might be small. A good place to start is volunteering, because often when people don't know you, they're not going to offer you these positions and say, please join this. So it might be something that seems very small or unimportant, but it's important that you start to volunteer, and that's part of the visibility. It might not be something that you're passionate about. I'm in one committee which is about spaces, and I know very little on spaces, but I realize that I can be part of, contribute and make a difference and learn about the institution just by being in these committees. You need to, initially, you might just be serving committees within your discipline. So you might be known within the field of mathematics, but not necessarily known by other disciplines, by other people. And the real goal is, whilst at the beginning, it might just be your local people that know you within your discipline, but at the end of it all, the hope is that you really become a global citizen, and that you are, and that your influence goes beyond just your discipline. And then as you get to know more people, you need to look at the faculty. What can I do within the faculty? There are various committees, research committees, education, etc. And start, as I said, volunteer, do things, get to know who's who, get to know, and that creates an upward mobility. And then nationally, regionally, there are provincial committees, there are all sorts of things. So I think you need to map out what is the upward mobility in my field, and what is the upward mobility within the university, and how can I get in, how can I move upwards? And again, start by volunteering, and before you know it, people will be asking you to join various committees, boards, all sorts of things. I'm struggling on my screen. Okay. Can I get some help?
You also wouldn't survive.
Clearly. I'm trying to get rid of this thing.
So it has nothing to do with age. No, it's not an age thing. So, Mr. Chairman, you're protected. Yeah, I am.
Okay. We clearly all need a tutorial. Okay, and as I said, from regional, you go to national, from national, you go to global. And one important lesson that I learned, I attended a course from the Harvard Medical School, and they were talking about your CV. And they were saying your CV speaks to your reputation. And they were particularly talking about the importance of presentations. They're saying when it's the people in your town, you live in Joburg and all your talks are in Joburg, it says that the people that invite you to talk are the people who know you personally. When they start seeing that, okay, you're based in South Africa, maybe you're doing talks in Cape Town, in Durban, that says that there are more people who know about you and your work. And when you start being invited internationally, and there's a huge diversity, you're going to Denmark, you're going to India, China, that those are people that don't know you, but know of you. And when you start having people that know of you, inviting you, it speaks volumes about who you are and your contribution. And so it's setting some of those goals and those aims for yourself, that I want to be known outside of Wits, I want to be known outside of Johannesburg, but may my work should influence the world and a much bigger platform. The basis of what we do, I think the Sustainable Development Goals are a good place. You know, all of us as Africans are faced with poverty, hunger, inequality, all of these things are real. And if your motive is based on something genuine, you know, a genuine dream to eradicate poverty, for example, or at least to contribute towards the eradication of poverty, then your passion will push you. You don't need any of us sitting and motivating you. You're going to do what you want to do because you love what you do. You'll make a difference, and it's not about promotion. You need to influence policy and practice at various levels. And here I made an example with the government, with in South Africa, or even United Nations. And when people know about you, when you're making a difference, you start getting invited to make decisions in other platforms where policy and practice can really change because of your work. We need to become thought leaders in community engagement. Many of you with PhDs are really experts at a certain field, at the work that you do. You might be the person who knows the most about what you do. I know, for example, my PhD was on cesarean sections in women in Johannesburg. When it comes to cesarean sections, I know I'm the person that the bleeding during Caesar, I'm the person that you must look for. When it comes to other things, you go along. But when it comes to cesarean section, I know my contribution to science in that area, and I'm constantly building and developing it. And as a result, when work on cesarean sections and bleeding and deaths from cesarean sections are being discussed, I get invited often to give a comment or to say something about it. And I think that's the approach that we need to have when it comes to our field of science, that let us, each one of you are doing such important work, and you should be the name and the face behind some of this work. Some scientists choose not to be visible, choose not to engage in the community, choose to hide away. But as science leaders, we need to be out there and engage with the community and look at social change and making a difference. And then at the end of it all, promotion might be the reward. And it's not also just waiting for promotion to come. You have to study the processes. How do you get a promotion in Wits? What does it mean to be an associate professor, adjunct professor, full professor, research professor? You're not going to line up your things to become that if you don't know what that is. And I've seen many colleagues who are now entering their 50s, for example, who feel by the stature that they have in their department, they should be professors, but they didn't do the groundwork, and it's a bit late for them to start, publishing and doing all of those things. So familiarize yourself with the process so that you are working towards something, even though influence should be the goal and not promotion on its own. And keep calm and update your CV. Yeah, as good as your CV in committees, it's promotion committees, it's your CV that is looked at, and it needs to speak for you. If you've invested, you've done your publications, you've done things, and think broadly. It's how many students are you supervising? It's not just get 30 publications and you're in. It's looking at leadership, so teaching, all of the supervision, what communities you're in. And you need to be multitasking, to be considered for these things. And you need to document it. Many of us have done many things that we've never written about, that we're not putting anywhere. And then suddenly one day I'll make an example. So with the work that I do, in a meeting earlier this year, we spoke about advocacy, and it was mentioned that, I'm not doing enough advocacy. My team doesn't do enough advocacy. And it was because I was never reporting on the advocacy. I took for granted that if I'm doing, 30, 40 talks a year, it means that, everyone knows that I'm doing advocacy. But because I didn't report it, no, they took it that it's not being done, or, I'm doing it as a side gig. So I had to learn now. I had to go back and write how many times I've been on radio, how many times I've been on TV, putting down those things so that it's clear that I've got a track record that I've been keeping and working towards, and it's visible for those who need to make decisions. And finally, excellence is then recognized, and there's the nice part of research where you can get awards. We all want to get a Nobel Prize one day. We still need a Black African, I don't think, there's no Black person who has gotten a Nobel Prize for medicine, physiology, science. We still need that person. And so it's important that as we do all of this, recognition will come, and it should come. But again, recognition in science is not one of the things that you sit back and hope somebody will recognize my work. You nominate yourself for awards sometimes, not always, sometimes. Most of the time, other people recognize your work and will put your name forward. But there are times where you need to see that I match this award, because scientists are looking at themselves and thinking about themselves and putting their names down. So you also have the responsibility to look around and see what recognition is there, because awards build your social capital as well. Once you've got a track record of awards, people trust you, and awards attract awards as well. So in short, those are my comments for today. And then I'm going to hand over to Prof. Stella Nkomo. Prof. Nkomo is a professor in the Department of Human Resource Management at the University of Pretoria. She's the former dean and deputy dean for research and postgraduate studies in the Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences. Her current research focuses on diversity, difference, and race and gender in organizations, particularly the exclusion of marginalized voices in management and organization studies. She has an extensive editorial experience as associate editor for Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion, an international journal. She has contributed to so many things. She's an A-rated scientist and researcher. She sits on our board, and she's also a member of the Future Professors Program National Advisory Board. Thanks, Prof. Stella.
Thank you so much, Salome. Good morning, everyone. Let me just make sure that I can share my screen. let's just see, I want to, yes, thank you. It's not showing what I want to show. Let's just do this. Just sorry, we're all stumbling today, huh? Sometimes my son says, Mom, you are BC, before computers. But good morning, everyone, and everyone in the Senate room and all of you who have joined us virtually. I'm delighted to be part of this launch. And I've been asked to talk about academic leadership. But before I do that, I just want to say congratulations to all of the fellows. Listening to what you're working on has warmed my heart tremendously. And it just emboldens my motivation to be part of this program and to make a contribution to each of you through this journey. And as you heard earlier from the chairperson, the chancellor actually, that part of what we hope to achieve in FALF is to elevate the status and power of African and colored women in higher education in South Africa. And one of the ways we hope to do this is that in the future, we hope many of you will accept the call to academic leadership positions. And you might be wondering why we're already talking about that. But it is a journey. So I think it makes sense to talk about that from the very beginning of the program, although you may undertake it much later. Some of you are already doing leadership. And so I'm going to talk today about academic leadership. And, you know, clearly it's a very complex environment for academic leadership today in South Africa. People have to juggle internal demands, external demands, unforeseen events. I was thinking about the recent catastrophic fire at UCT. There's heavy pressure on academic leaders to contribute to nation building. And it requires diverse skills and knowledge from administrative management to educational and information technology. It requires people skills. So it's very complex. So we're going to have many more conversations about academic leadership through the program. So for today, I just want to focus on what I consider to be the essence of academic leadership. One of the things I've come to understand, having been in such roles, it's about much more than a position and a title. And for me, the core is about influence. It's an influence relationship between the academic leader, the university community, and the broader society in the pursuit of a vision and a mission. And I think this core applies whether or not you're an HOD or a DVC or a VC, because it has three key elements that are critical to achieving the vision and mission of any institution. The ability to influence. You know, we would like to think that once we get the title, we could coerce people into doing things. But those of you who've held such positions know that the key source of power for academic leadership is the ability to influence others, to influence their behaviors, their opinions, and their attitudes. The second element is a communal one. We advance the goals of a collective in building a strong community. And the last element is a vision about creating an attractive vision, an attractive future that people want to sign on to. And so for me, this is the essence of academic leadership. And if you look at the academic leadership pipeline, it is a journey. And if you look at the very first passage, the entry point starts with being a leader of oneself. And that's mostly what we do as academics, when we're in academic role, the key challenge there is leading ourselves. But if you look at the passages, you can see as one moves up the pipeline, you begin to have greater responsibility for leading others. And so I think it's very important as we think about academic leadership is to really understand the identity shift that's required.
Prof. Stella, your slides are not changing.
Oh, are you sure? Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
I thought they were. Let's see. Okay, sorry. I'm glad you, let me try this again. I did share. Let me stop and try again. I think we are challenged. I'm joining all of you. I don't know why they're not showing. Okay, I'm on my own, so I have to figure this out. Do you see them now? Are they changing?
Oh, yeah. And
let's try this. Did it change now?
you just need to click. What does she need to click to make some? Okay.
What's that?
Please play on slide presentation. So put it in play mode.
I did put it in a slideshow. Okay, let's try it again. I did choose slide share. Okay, let me try it again. I did put it in slideshow mode, but it doesn't seem to like me. Let me just do this. I have it on slideshow and I say from the beginning.
Okay. Have you stopped sharing, Prof? If you can share it again.
Yes, I'm trying it again. Sorry about this, folks.
We can share those presentations after the webinar and then everyone can have them.
Okay. Share screen. Okay. Do you see it now?
Yeah, and then just screen share. Oh, no.
From the beginning, play from the beginning on the top.
Yes, I've done that.
Click.
Okay.
I did click. Let's see if it goes forward now. Is it going forward?
Yes, it is.
Great.
It's not playing. It's still just showing the slide deck.
Wow. Okay,
Unless you
well,
just, yeah.
I don't understand why, because I've been doing this so many times, so I don't know what happened. Okay. I don't know.
Unless you just click on each slide individually as you speak.
Okay, I'll try that. Okay.
We can see that you're on academic leadership. Yeah. Okay.
You see the academic leadership pipeline?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
sorry. Okay, so I was talking about the identity work that is needed to make the shift from being a leader of self and moving into leadership positions. And so when you are an academic, you are focusing on individual academic competencies and discipline expertise. So the emphasis in that position is to be an individual contributor to learning, research, and academic citizenship. But moving into academic leadership requires a transformational shift from being an individual contributor to advancing the goals of a collective. And that's not always an easy shift to make. And we know from our own experience that some people take on leadership roles, but they never really make that shift. And so it shouldn't be underestimated. And this is why it's important to begin to think about that, because it's a shift from me to we. And concretely, there is also a difference in the skill sets that one has to have in order to be successful in an academic leadership position. For example, I won't go through this entire list, but let's just point out ones that are kind of striking that I've seen where people have the most difficulty. For example, as an academic, you can operate independently. You know, our whole academic culture is one of solo, being a solo. We can remain in our offices. We can choose who we want to work with. We can isolate ourselves. But in the academic leadership position, you have to learn how to operate communally. You cannot engage in selective collegiality. I will pick and choose whom I must talk with, who I must interact with. If you're in an academic leadership role, you have to be able to interact with diverse people at multiple levels. And lastly, as an academic, you have accountability to your field and to your discipline. But in academic leadership, there's much more broader accountability to multiple stakeholders, stakeholders within the university and those outside of the university. So as you can see, this is not necessarily an easy transition. It requires renegotiating one's identity and reconstructing one that will allow you to influence other people in a positive way. So why, you're probably thinking, why would anyone want to become an academic leader? Well, I like to think about, for me, what has been most rewarding has been more the intrinsic rewards. I'm not saying the extrinsic rewards are not important, you know, higher salary, prestige, but I think you want to choose an academic leadership position because of the intrinsic rewards that you will gain. There's 4 of them, I think. The opportunity to exercise one's talents to make a difference and make a contribution to creating a better university, a better department, a better faculty. Helping others to achieve their goals. And the personal fulfillment that comes from solving problems and coming up with new ideas and initiating change, all of that can be very exciting and rewarding. And lastly, leaving a legacy when you finish your term for future generations. You have built for the future, hopefully something that's sustainable. But what are the prerequisites for academic leadership? I think there are a few. I think it's very important before one takes on academic leadership roles is that one has established their scholarly voice. And I use the word voice because it's unique. We all have a unique voice. And I think your scholarly voice is one where you have decided what research matters. What's important? What do I want to research? What do I want to focus on? And I heard that a lot this morning from each of you, the passion, the clarity with which you were able to articulate what you want to produce in terms of knowledge. And then using that voice to make significant contributions to your field in such a way that your peers recognize the impact you are having in your discipline. I think it's important that you've mastered teaching, that you have a pedagogical philosophy about how people best learn, what is important in educating students. And as was talked about before, I think significant contributions to academic citizenship and community engagement are also important in a journey to becoming an academic leader. You know, serving on committees in universities gives you a lot of experience in making a contribution, but also understanding the challenges that the university is facing. And lastly, which I think is probably the most important one, self-knowledge of your leadership capacity and your motivation to lead. I've done a lot of leadership development with people in business, people in nonprofit, with MBA students. And there's one question I always ask them that seems to stump them. And I think the question is, why would anyone want to be led by you? And I think this is a very important thing to think about before one goes into leadership, to be aware of what is it that I'm going to bring to a leadership position. And secondly, why do I want to lead? What is my motivation? What is my goal in leading? And I think this is essential, and hopefully this is something that we will spend more time talking about in this program. And one of the things, two of the things that we're going to do in FALF to support your leadership development, to enhance your leadership development, we're going to do two things that we're very excited about as a board. The first thing is we've arranged for a leadership assessment opportunity for each of you. And it's going to be a 360-degree assessment conducted by a leadership development professional that we have contracted. In fact, we met with her yesterday, and you're going to be briefed before the end of the month about this intervention. And the 360-degree assessment will allow you to get feedback on personality and identity traits that impact one's capacity to lead. And it's 360 in the sense that you will get to do a self-assessment, but also identify 5 to 8 other people who can also complete an assessment in terms of how they see or how they have experienced you. As a result of that assessment, each fellow will get an individual development plan that you will be able to work on during the program and after the program. And the intent of this leadership assessment opportunity is to set a foundation that will help you in becoming a research leader and or pursuing an academic leadership role. So we believe that this program will give you that foundation to go forward. The second intervention, which we're also very excited about, is peer-to-peer mentoring groups. We're going to put you in groups where you have a chance to engage with one another in a non-evaluative way to support each other's personal learning and growth, and in particular, to learn how to be a resource to one another. You know, what I found when I started my academic career, and even for my PhD program, it can be a very lonely journey, and I heard some of you speak about that. You feel very isolated, and especially if you're not a member of the dominant group. That can be quite intimidating. It can be have a negative impact on one's confidence. And so having a peer group that can be a resource to you during this journey and beyond is a powerful way to ensure your further development. And research has shown that peer mentoring has a lot of benefits. It can help you improve your performance. It will allow you to obtain information about benchmarks and best practices. One of the things that I have experienced throughout my career and also helping young academics is that the fact that academia and what you should be doing as an academic is a very well-kept secret. There's a lot of tacit knowledge that you stumble upon or you make a mistake and that's how you learn. So by having peer mentoring, we can get information from each other. Maybe somebody's been through the NRF process. Maybe someone has had a particular problem that they figured out. So that sharing of information is a powerful way of helping each other. It's a safe environment. It's confidential. You get to share with others the challenges and obstacles to success. You get exposure to new ideas and strategies that will help your own career. And hopefully, which I know from experience too, that you will make personal connections that will probably enrich your academic life going forward. And it brings to mind for me this African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So what we hope in FALF is that this program will create a supportive peer community that extends beyond the time you spend in the program. So 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we see this network of women who powerfully support each other and enrich each other's lives professionally and personally. So I just want to leave you with a few final thoughts. I believe that universities, the most important thing that we do, those of us who work in higher education, is the development of human potential. I know there's a lot of talk about the economic development of South Africa, getting into markets, having global impact. But I think without also focusing on the development of human potential, we'll never become the great country that we can be. The second thought that I'd like to leave you with is it's important to have individual achievement. We want you to be stars. We want you to be research leaders in your field. We want you to blaze new trails. We want you to impact and change the world, not only this country. But I think it's important that we lift others as we climb. And I think of this phrase often. I've been thinking about it during the pandemic, where we see so many instances of people being selfish. But imagine if we all lift others as we climb. Imagine what we could create. And in the words of Nelson Mandela, it would be a South Africa that belongs to everyone who lives in it. There would not be people confined to marginalized spaces. And I want to end with a point that the Chancellor made about this intersectional space that we occupy. This intersectional space could be seen as a burden because people want to put us in this marginalized position. But I've never allowed myself to stay in it. And so I want to end with a quote by Patricia Hill Collins, a sociologist and author of Black feminist thought. She said, "Our race and gender provides us with a unique standpoint from which to observe and contribute to the broader society. We are the key to uplifting not just women, but everyone in our communities." So thank you for listening. Sorry about the technical glitch, but I'm really looking forward to getting to know each of you and to being a contribution to you in your journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Stella. I think, you'll agree with me when I say that, we're very lucky to have Prof. Stella and Prof. Nonga. I mean, just the level of wisdom and what we learn from them is just amazing. And the inspiration that we get from them, also seeing the journey that they've walked. I'm going to invite next Professor Lynn Morris, and there's a reason why we're sharing these bios, because it's also to hear the success stories and what people have done. And I remember myself with 5 publications, I thought I was ready for NRF rating, and I was quite disappointed when someone told me I'm not. And so after this bio, you'll understand why I wasn't ready back then. Prof. Lynn Morris was appointed as the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation at WITS from the 1st of April 2021. Her previous positions include Interim Executive Director of the National Institute for Communicable Diseases and Principal Medical Scientist and Head of the HIV Virology Section at the NICD. She holds a joint appointment as Research Professor at WITS and an honorary appointment as Senior Scientist at CAPRISA. She completed her undergraduate studies at WITS, obtained a DPhil from University of Oxford in 1988. Lynn is an NRF A-rated researcher who has made significant contributions to our understanding of how the antibody response to HIV develops, and her lab conducts validated endpoint assays for HIV vaccine clinical trials. She has supervised 30 PhD and MSc students, has published over 270 papers, and currently has an age index of 63 and has featured on the Web of Science list of highly cited researchers. She's a member of the Academy of Sciences of South Africa and a fellow of the African Academy of Sciences and the Royal Society of South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm actually totally humbled to be here. In the wisdom that I've heard in this room has just been phenomenal. So I would like to thank you for inviting me to be part of this. Just to say, I'm just going to say a few words. I don't have any slides. Hopefully I'm not powerless and pointless, but we were Roxana and I were late additions to the program. So we're just really here to introduce ourselves. But I really want to congratulate Dr. Dlamini, our Chancellor, on putting this program together. I think this is really the sort of thing that WITS needs. And I'm really excited about it because I see what you've done is you've identified the group of people that I need to focus on, or that I want to focus on, and you've actually done the work for me because these are our future leaders. And I just love listening to all of the talks. And we even had somebody, looked like she was in a lab, actually giving her brief. So really, this program is really very exciting, and I feel WITS is in really good hands when I see the talent and the passion and the motivation. I really feel very excited about it. But of course, we do still have a lot of work to do because, as Dr. Dlamini showed, she showed the stats. We have a lot of work to do, and so this group actually has a big responsibility. And I think collectively as a group, you have a lot of power. It's one of those things, that the sum is much more powerful than the past. There's a synergy because you'll come together, you'll identify problems, you'll come up with solutions that you'll work out together, and you'll come back to this forum and really help us, transform this university. And so you really are the pipeline, for the future leaders. So we're really going to rely on this group to do that. And I really appreciated the hard data that you showed, because that's really what wants to, what should be guiding our response. And I want to also comment on the NRF ratings. So one of the things that I was a bit surprised about that came out of the research office is, so clearly WITS punches above its weight, I think, in terms of A and B ratings. But actually, we really do very poorly on C ratings. And I really need to understand that. And I think perhaps it's because we are neglecting them. I suspect that's one of the main reasons. But I really want to focus on getting more people C rated in this university, because that is our pipeline. These are the people that we need to be investing in. The A rating people can take care of themselves. We need to be focusing on the C rating, on getting people rated. And I need to understand what those, what those obstacles are. I know the NRF system is quite tricky, but I also want to highlight, many of you would have seen Rob Drennan sitting here. So he is the head of our research office. So he's a key person for you to know and to interact with. And he's also put together some wonderful programs as well to really help young researchers navigate this very complex environment. But I really want you to, and let me say the NRF rating is just one measure, but it's a very convenient and useful measure. There are lots of other things that you can be doing to, to build your career. I also want to thank Dr. Dlamini for including men in this discussion. We want, I think it's fantastic and that they're here and giving and sharing their wisdom, because we need men to be advocates for this program. So really it's just to say to all of you, you are role models now. And mentorship never stops. I mean, I feel I've been mentored in this session, so it is, but you're also, you have to start growing your leadership and you have to start mentoring others. But let me tell you, your social capital has shot through the roof just by becoming Chancellor Fellows. So congratulations and well done and good luck on your journey.
And our final speaker for the day, Professor Osman, is the Senior Deputy Vice Chancellor, academic at the University of Wits. Her previous positions include DVC, AHRT, and Dean of the Faculty of Humanities at the University of Wits. She's also former head of the School of Education, and she is an elected member of the Academy of Science South Africa. Her expertise is in higher education, research-led teacher education, and teaching and learning in higher education. Her focus is on equity, access, and success in teaching and higher education. She has authored 6 books, and she also serves as the convener of the UNESCO Research Chair in Teacher Education for Diversity and Development.
Thank you so much for that generous introduction. Len, if you focus on the C ratings, I think we'll beat all universities. At Wits, C is associated with, you remember being in the C group at school? So who wants to be C? But actually C rating at an NRF is an excellent rating as far as I'm concerned. So we'd be delighted if you focused your attention on that group of people. I have to start by saying a warm congratulations to all of the fellows. Really well done. And I think you've heard about all the responsibility on your shoulders, so I'm not going to tell you about that. But what I will say is how exciting this program is when the Chancellor raised it with us. It's important to note that this program comes hot on the back of several programs that the university has already had, but it has one advantage, and that is it has learned a lot from all the programs that we've implemented. It has learned from what we need to do more and what we need to do better. So Chancellor, I think the FALF program, in the way that you've constructed it, and in terms of the development program that Prof. Nkomo spoke about, is really going to take us many steps ahead. And I think the fact that you're embedding it and nesting it with our current programs is already an advantage to your program, to be run then by our transformation office. Just so that colleagues know, since the time of the former Vice Chancellor, whom I still call Vice Chancellor, Prof. Nonka, he introduced the Vice Chancellor's Equity program. And that program really kickstarted this idea of making Wits a more inclusive space. And what happened then was that program developed. Along came a program that was the Inclusive Professoriate, which I introduced in the Faculty of Humanities, making an inclusive professoriate at Wits, but it was just for the humanities. And then followed the Diversifying the Academy program and the Enabling programs. But what's interesting to note are 2 things. The Vice Chancellor's Equity program, when it started, it focused on recruitment, in other words, bringing people into the university. But soon there was a recognition that that's not enough. You need to create an enabling program, an enabling environment. And this, Chancellor, is what your program is doing, is helping to create an environment and a conducive environment that allows each one of us to bring our whole selves into the university. In other words, none of these people have to leave any part of them outside. They come with their whole selves. And I think by doing that, you're not only just creating this kind of a program, but you're helping us to create an inclusive institutional environment. So I do want to say to the fellows, I do wish that I had a FALF in my life when I started out in academia some time ago. It's a wonderful opportunity, and it is an opportunity that enables you to build an inclusive Wits University, one in which each one of us brings our whole selves. You know that many of us have to leave big parts of ourselves outside before we come here. And it is my hope that FALF enables us to bring our whole selves. I may not be able to join you for lunch because I am observing Ramadan today, but I will be outside there trying to speak to some of the FALF fellows. So wishing you lots of luck. This is a wonderful program. And I depend heavily on my colleague, Professor Dr. Johnson here, the director of the Transformation Office, who helps keep a keen eye on these programs. And we learn all the time what works, for whom does it work, how does it work, because we know one size does not fit all. So good luck to each one of you. And Chancellor, thank you for taking this innovative approach to this program and building on what we already have here at Wits University. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've come to the end of the day, and I've already taken 6 minutes. I'm 6 minutes over time. So in closing, I'm gonna share my last 5 minutes with Dr. Judy, because I think after all we've received, you might want to have a few words to say.
Wow. Thank you so much, Professor Salome. Firstly, I'm very proud of you, the things that you've achieved. And I'm happy that you led this program, because you are the generation that we actually passing the baton to. And I have no doubt in my mind that we are safe with you as a leader, wherever you choose to be, which is the other thing that's very important regarding this fellowship. I'm a Witsi, completely loyal, but there's something that's even more important to me. It's my country and my continent, right? So whatever we do, no matter where we go, I would love you stay within academia and make a change wherever you are. People think that a change is something big, and yet it starts with us, and one person at a time, one day at a time, will enable each one of us to change the world. There was a quote that I wanted to read. I think it says, people will follow your actions. Okay, your actions will change the world, not your opinions. So let's do something to change this world, which is not designed for us, and I'm talking women now, collectively, but we need to change it with the men along us, changing it for the better of society and humanity. And I do believe that men have the power to work along us to change the world, to have us around the table, and also listen to what you have to share. I thank you so much. I look forward to working with you and all of us working for that next group and that next group. And it becomes a national movement. And over time, I think I'll be gone by then, it becomes a movement of the continent and the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chancellor, for those closing words, inspiring words. It's my job to thank everyone that has been part of this day. thanking firstly the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor, the DVCs, the Deans, the Research Office, the Transformation Office, the board, the fellows, all of you for being part of this, everyone who was part of the organizing team and part of developing FALF, and everyone who has contributed to the success of this day. Special mentions, Dr. Bernadette Johnson, Robin Drennan, Michelle, and everyone who's working behind the scenes, the IT group as well. And my final words today, you've heard it all, so I don't need to say yet another speech. The desire for leadership is noble, as you all know, because leadership is not just a title, it's a responsibility. And so as we desire and work towards leadership, let's design the future that we want to see. Let's build our legacies and start thinking about what legacy we want to leave in education, in science, in leadership, and in higher education. Thank you so much for being part of this. Enjoy the rest of the day, and there'll be lunch outside.
Where's food? I'm so hungry. Yeah. We eat at 10, we eat it 8 times.
Actually, food is right here with you, wherever you are. Oh, thank you so much, colleagues. Oh, thanks. This was amazing.
Yes.
Oh, this was special.
Are you not allowed?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Is it?
Yeah, but I'm still in Joburg.
Is it?
Yeah, and we're from home.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's nice that we always see your face.
Thank you. Thanks.